So this is going to be the topic today. As I said earlier, transcription will be taking around 3, 4, 5 lectures on transcription. Briefly, what transcription means, you all know that the process by which RNA is synthesized from DNA, that process is called as transcription. Okay, so in another next 4 to 5 lectures, we'll try and understand what exactly is transcription in prokaryotes particularly. Okay, because the picture in prokaryote is lot more clear. We have a better understanding of this process in prokaryotes and lower organisms. We are still learning about this process in higher organisms. But whatever little we know about this in higher organism, that also we'll try and discuss it in these lectures. So this is the usual disclaimer. Now you are very well aware what you are not supposed to do and what you are supposed to do with these lectures. Now briefly, before we proceed further, let us understand what exactly is RNA. We have discussed it earlier when we were discussing nucleic acids. So RNA, like DNA, is a long unbranched polymer of ribonucleotides. So the difference is, in case of DNA, you had deoxyribonucleotides. Here you have ribonucleotides, and they are joined by, like DNA, they are joined by 5,3 phosphodiester bonds. Okay. Sugar unit, the second difference is, the sugar unit in RNA is ribose. In DNA, we understood that it is deoxyribose. In RNA, it is ribose. As far as nitrogen bases are concerned, again, there is a difference. In DNA, we had ATGC. In RNA, in place of T, you have a uracil. So this you need to understand. This is another basic difference between DNA and RNA. Now, the size of RNAs, different types of RNAs are there. The size ranges between anywhere between 75 nucleotides to several thousand nucleotides. It is generally single-stranded. Okay, except in some viruses where it serves as a genetic material, it can be double-stranded. Otherwise, it is single-stranded. It may, however, show double-stranded regions because of internal complementary regions. So RNA is single-stranded like this, but if there are some complementary regions, like this region is complementary to, let's say, this region, then RNA has a tendency that it can form this kind of a hairpin-like structure. So these are the complementary regions. And this is the one which has bulged out. This is not complementary. The central portion, which is not complementary, it has bulged out. But these two, when they get a chance, they tend to form this kind of double-stranded region. This is called as secondary structure of RNA. And there are 3 main types of RNAs. You have messenger RNA, you have transfer RNA, and you have ribosomal RNA. Right? Let us see one by one all these 3 types of RNAs before we proceed further. So messenger RNA, this is the main, what you can say, main type of RNA, because it serves as a template for protein synthesis. Okay, it serves as a messenger between the DNA and the protein. The genetic information which is coded, which is stored in DNA is expressed and present in RNA in the form of codons. And these nucleotides, this nucleotide sequence of messenger RNA is complementary to one of the strands of the DNA. That strand is called as template strand. Generally, messenger RNA is short-lived. It is delicate molecule, it is short-lived. Once it has been transcribed, once it has been translated, generally it is, disintegrated, and it is about 5%. Total amount of RNA, messenger RNA in the cell is around 5%. And this RNA contains signals for initiation of protein synthesis and termination of protein synthesis. Both these signals are also located on the messenger RNA. Now transfer RNA, these are the smallest. These are the smallest of the 3 types. Their size ranges between 75 to 95 nucleotides. So we'll be seeing them detailed structure also of transfer RNA in some other lecture. They serve as translation adapter. They serve as translation adapters because they are the molecules which can understand the language of amino acid as well as the language of nucleotides. So they are very important, they are critical as far as protein biosynthesis is concerned. They carry activated amino acids to the ribosome for peptide bond formation during protein biosynthesis. The amino acid is determined by the codon which is present on messenger RNA. Which amino acid will be brought in? It will be decided by the codon which is present on messenger RNA. There is at least one tRNA each for 20 standard amino acids. So you will find at least one tRNA each for all the 20 standard amino acids which participate in protein biosynthesis. Some amino acids may have more than one transfer RNA also. Those amino acids which have more than one codon, they will have more than one transfer RNA also. This is the ribosomal RNA. Ribosomal RNA, they serve both structural and catalytic roles. Initially, people thought that they have only structural roles to play, but now we know that they have catalytic roles also. They are basically the structural components of ribosome. Ribosome, as you can see, they are made up of three different types of. Prokaryotic ribosome is made up of three different types of ribosomal RNA, 5S ribosomal RNA, 16S ribosomal RNA, and 23S ribosomal RNA. And they are the most abundant RNAs in the cell. They constitute something like 80% of total RNAs in the cell. 15% is transfer RNA and 5% is messenger RNA. In addition, in eukaryotic cell, I discussed it earlier also, they will have these two additional types of RNAs. They are called as small nuclear RNAs and small cytoplasmic RNAs. These two additional RNAs are present in eukaryotes. They are typically less than 300 nucleotides. Now the enzymes which catalyze synthesis of RNA from DNA, they are called as RNA polymerases. In prokaryotes, you have only one type of RNA polymerase, but in eukaryotes, you have more than one type of RNA polymerases. So therefore, I have used both singular and plural enzymes which participate or which catalyze synthesis of RNA. They are called as RNA polymerases. Now let us understand, as I have been telling you all along, that unless I specify, we will be primarily discussing the prokaryotic system. So let us first understand what is the RNA polymerase present in prokaryotes. So this RNA polymerase in prokaryote, it is responsible for synthesis of RNA from DNA. And this process, as we have just discussed, it is called as transcription. This bacterial RNA polymerase, we will be referring it as RNA pol. Bacterial RNA polymerase, it is a large, see the molecular weight, it's about 500 kilodalton. Multimeric, multi-subunit assembly, it is made up of 4 different types of subunits. There are in fact 5 subunits of 4 different types. So it's a multi-subunit assembly having a very large molecular weight, approximately 500 kilodalton, right? The subunit composition of RNA polymerase in bacteria is given in table, in this particular table. Let us understand. So you have a subunit alpha. There are how many? There are 2 of them. Alpha subunits, you have 2. Mass of each subunit in kilodalton is around 37 kilodalton. And what is their function? Their function, alpha subunit, is to bind to regulatory sequences. So alpha subunits will be binding to regulatory sequences. You have a beta subunit, you have just one number, this RNA polymerase. Molecular weight is given here 151 kilodalton, and it has got the active site. It is responsible for the formation of phosphodiester bonds. The active site of enzyme is located on beta subunit. In addition, this RNA pol has got a beta prime subunit. Only one subunit, beta prime. Molecular mass is 157 kilodalton, and its role, its responsibility is to bind to DNA template. So there is a good division of responsibility in the subunit among the subunits. This beta subunit has got the active site of the enzyme, and beta prime's role is to bind to the, to identify and bind to the DNA template. In addition, you have what is called a sigma. This is called a sigma subunit. Sigma. This is the sign sigma. You have one subunit. Please understand the molecular mass. It is important. It is called a sigma 70. So molecular mass is sigma 70. Molecular mass is 70 kilodalton. And important, it recognizes the promoter. Promoter is the site where RNA polymerase will go and bind. Promoter is the site on DNA where RNA polymerase will go and bind. And the job of this sigma subunit is to recognize that promoter site, this promoter site, and initiate transcription. So it plays a very significant role, sigma subunit. Please remember, because there will be multiple sigma subunit, this standard sigma subunit, which is a part of standard RNA polymerase, has a molecular mass of 70 kilodalton. And what is its role? It recognizes the promoter, and the transcription initiation will take place after the promoter has been identified. Now, what is the role of RNA polymerase? So this is broadly, these are the functions of RNA polymerase which are shown in this particular slide. What does RNA polymerase do? It is the responsibility of RNA polymerase to search for initiation site. Initiation sites are called as promoters. So for example, E. coli genome, now you know that it has got about 4 million bases. E. coli genome, which is considered as a small genome, may have as many as 2000 promoters. 2000 promoters in 4 into 10 to the power 6 base pairs that it has in its genome. Okay, so it is the responsibility of RNA polymerase to, scan this entire DNA, and search for appropriate, suitable initiation sites, which are technically called as promoters. Initiation sites, now we'll be calling them as promoters, where RNA polymerase binds and starts transcription. The next job it has to do is to unwind. DNA is double helical. So what is the job of RNA polymerase? It is the job of RNA polymerase to unwind a short stretch of double-stranded DNA and generate a single-stranded DNA template. Because unless you have single-stranded DNA, transcription won't take place. The DNA will not be able to act as a template. So it is necessary that the double-stranded DNA is unbound, becomes single-stranded only transiently, only temporarily, not for forever. As soon as the transcription is over, the DNA will be rebound again. So from the template strand, RNA polymerase will take instruction and will synthesize a complementary strand, RNA strand, right? It is the responsibility of RNA polymerase to select the right kind of ribonucleotide. What is meant by right kind of ribonucleotide? Because based on what is nucleotide present on the DNA, it has to select, it has to pick up the correct complementary ribonucleotide. So again, it is the responsibility of the RNA polymerase to pick up the correct ribonucleotide and catalyze the formation of the phosphodiester bond. So now you know that phosphodiester bond formation is the responsibility of the beta subunit of RNA polymerase. So it will pick up the correct ribonucleotide. Correct means the one which is complementary to the ribonucleotide, deoxyribonucleotide present on the DNA template. Then where does the transcription end? There are specific signals, transcription termination signals. And it is the responsibility of RNA polymerase to detect those transcription termination signals which are present and then terminate the transcription there. So these are broadly the functions of RNA polymerase, right? Another function is that the rate of transcription can be regulated. So by interacting with activators and repressors, when it interacts with, RNA polymerase interacts with activators, obviously as the name suggests, the rate of transcription will increase. And when the cell doesn't need higher rate of transcription, then there are regulatory switches the RNA polymerase will interact with repressors. And this repressor, as the name suggests, will repress, will decrease the rate of transcription. So, depending upon the need of the cell, depending upon the need of the organism, the rate of transcription can also be adjusted. Okay, so this is the picture of RNA polymerase. You know, this is alpha subunit in red, and this is this is sigma subunit, and then you have two alpha subunits shown in blue. There are two alpha subunits, and there is a beta, and there is a beta prime. It is beta prime. So beta prime, right? There is alpha, two alpha subunit, one beta, and beta prime. ये prime होना चाहिए यहाँ पर, prime. And this all 5 subunits together, they constitute what is called as holoenzyme. Okay, and sigma subunit, it has got a specific role. What is the role? To identify the promoter, initiate the transcription. And once the job is over, this sigma subunit leaves the complex. Sigma subunit is not a part of the enzyme after the initiation has been done. So in that case, what remains is this. You know, you have two alpha, one beta, and this beta prime. It should be beta prime. So you have this tetramer. This tetramer is called as core enzyme. So this core enzyme is responsible for the elongation and termination, whereas the holoenzyme is responsible for the initiation of transcription. In fact, holoenzyme in that too, specifically the sigma subunit plays a very critical role. It is responsible for identifying the promoter and initiating the transcription. And once the transcription has been initiated, then sigma subunit will leave the complex, and what remains is this core enzyme. This core enzyme, okay, so some problem in my internet connection. Okay, so this core enzyme is responsible for elongation of the RNA synthesis. Okay, now we have just introduced this word promoter. You know, this is a place, this is a site where RNA polymerase will typically come and bind. So what exactly is promoter? Promoter is a short stretch of DNA, typically around 60 base pair, where RNA polymerase binds and initiates transcription. I told you these are specific sites. In a small genome of E. coli, around 4 million bases, you may have as many as 2,000 promoters. So each promoter is around 60 base pairs. Okay, and it has got certain specific features. So we'll understand what are those specific features also. Sigma subunit, as I have been telling you, of the holoenzyme, it is the responsibility of sigma subunit to, identify these specific stretches of DNA called promoters. How does it do it? This sigma subunit, as a part of holoenzyme, it decreases the affinity of the holoenzyme for the general region, non-promoter region of the DNA by a factor of 10 to the power 4. In other words, what you can say, it increases the affinity of RNA polymerase holoenzyme for the promoter region by a factor of 10 to the power 4. That means by a factor of 10,000. 10,000 fold increased affinity for these 60 base pair specific regions called promoters. Presence of sigma subunit, increases the affinity of RNA polymerase for these regions by a factor of 10,000, 10 raised to the power 4. And that is how it helps in identifying the promoter. Still, you will not be able to understand how does it do it. So the enzyme binds to double-stranded DNA. So this is the double-stranded DNA. In some other slide, I will be showing this. This is the double-stranded DNA. So enzyme will bind here. Okay, and it has to scan the entire DNA. So it searches the entire DNA, it scans the entire DNA, looking for what? Looking for promoters. Looking for promoters. And how does it do it? It does it by sliding along in 2 dimension. It slides along in 2 dimension in this way. Okay, there could be another way also. Another way could be like, it will bind to a 60 base pair region, will scan whether it is promoter or not promoter. If it is not promoter, leave it, then bind to the next region here. Scan it whether it is promoter or not promoter. If it is not promoter, then leave it and then bind to the next, like this. So every time associate with the DNA, dissociate with the DNA, and it is going to take time. Rather than going for this mode, how does it do it? It slides across in 2 dimension, and it has got, once it has identified and once RNA polymerase is bound to the promoter region, this sigma subunit leaves it. The sigma subunit leaves the complex once the promoter has been identified and enzyme is bound to it. So I told you, elongation, sigma subunit is not a part of RNA polymerase. Then what is called as, it is called as RNA polymerase core enzyme. And when sigma subunit is part of it, RNA polymerase is called as RNA polymerase holoenzyme. Now let us understand, this is very crucial. Unless you understand it properly, you will not be able to understand things in future also. What is promoter? So we are introducing it. This is a new word. This prokaryotic promoters, these are 60 base pair regions, approximately 60 base pair length DNA stretches, and they are characterized by these two things: presence of a consensus sequence centered at -10. This -10, I will let you know what exactly is meant by -10. This is the start side of transcription. This is 0, and on this side you have plus, and on this side you have minus. Okay, so centered at -10 from the start side, on this side, on the left hand side, you have a consensus sequence which reads at, and you must remember this, TATAAT. This is also called as Tata box. And there is another consensus sequence located at -35. -35. And this sequence again you have to remember, it is TTGACA. Right? So there are two consensus sequences located at -10 and -35 in prokaryotic promoters. All prokaryotic promoters will be characterized by this. What is meant by consensus? Consensus means when you screen several promoters, you will find that this particular sequence repeated present in all the promoters at the same position. -10 you will have the same sequence, and -35 you will have the same sequence. So this is called a standard promoter. All standard promoters, you will have this particular sequence at the same location. So people have scanned, people have analyzed promoter regions of several promoter regions, and they found out that centered at -10 and centered at -35, the sequence remains the same, and therefore it is called as consensus sequence. Promoters of certain majority, these genes in prokaryotes or eukaryotes for that matter, but we are talking primarily of prokaryotes, they are arranged in groups based on their role, based on their function. So majority of gene groups, they will have this standard promoter characterized by presence of these two consensus sequences. But there are sets of genes which will have different promoters. There are sets of genes which will have promoters other than this standard promoter. And why we say the promoter is different? Because the set of consensus sequence, these two consensus sequences are different in those promoters. So they will be identified. Will it be identified by the same sigma factor? The answer is no. And therefore I told you that that sigma factor of the standard RNA polymerase has a molecular mass of 70 kilodalton. So those genes, those groups of genes which have different kind of promoter, different kind means the promoters which do not have this standard consensus sequences. They will have a different type of consensus sequence. So those genes, those groups of genes will be identified by a different combination of core enzyme and sigma factor. Okay, I will be explaining it to you shortly. Okay, what is meant by that? So you will have now, please understand, majority of the genes, in fact all the genes, they are arranged in groups, but majority of gene groups they are governed by, they are operated by a standard promoter. But there are groups of genes which have promoters other than the standard promoters. What is meant by other than the standard promoters? That means there are these consensus sequences located at -10 and -35, they are different. Okay, and to identify or to recognize these promoters, you will require a different RNA polymerase. So entire RNA polymerase doesn't change. The core enzyme remains the same, whereas only the sigma subunit is changed, and you get a different combination of RNA polymerase which will be responsible for identifying these different promoters. Let us understand that also. So I have tried to show it over here. Say for example, this is the standard promoter. Okay, -35, -10, it is important. You please write it down on piece of paper in big letters and put it in your rooms so that you remember these sequences. What is the -10 sequence and what is the -35 sequences. So these standard promoters, all gene groups which have these standard promoters are going to be identified by this combination of RNA polymerase. You will have alpha 2, beta, beta prime. This is core enzyme. And sigma subunit is sigma 70. So this will join and it will identify these promoters. You have heat shock promoters. There are genes which code for heat shock proteins. So these genes, I don't know, there is some disturbance here. These genes, they will have a different kind of promoter. You know, -10 sequence, this is -10 sequence. Please note it down. This is -10 sequence. And this is -35 sequence. So please, you know, compare these two. They are different. So they have different sets of -10 and -35 consensus sequences, and therefore these promoters of heat shock genes, which code for heat shock proteins, they will be identified by the core enzyme remains the same, whereas the sigma factor is different. It is called as sigma 32. Sigma 32. What is meant by 32? 32 is the molecular mass. The standard sigma has got a molecular mass of 70 kilodalton, whereas this sigma has got a molecular mass of 32 kilodalton. There is another set of genes called nitrogen starvation promoters. Those genes which code for proteins which will, you know, provide nitrogen when there is no nitrogen available to the prokaryotes. In that case, all those gene groups, nitrogen starvation genes, they have this promoter. -10 is TTGCA, whereas -35 is this particular sequence. -35 is this particular sequence. So please compare, this is the standard sequence and these are the change sequences, and therefore these promoters will be identified by different combination of RNA polymerase. Your core enzyme remains the same, whereas the sigma factor changes. Sigma factor is sigma 54. 54 is what? 54 is molecular weight of the sigma subunit. So you may have, these are some 2-3 examples of sigma factors that I have given you. There may be more sigma factors. Each sigma factor is responsible, when it joins with the core enzyme, it is responsible for identifying a specific promoter. Genes which are governed by that particular promoter, they will be expressed. The initiation of transcription of those genes will start by combining that specific sigma factor with the core enzyme. So we can understand this by taking one anomaly. So you may have this, you know, standard screwdriver toolbox at home also. So what typically is there? You have one, you know, handle, and these are the various shafts. You have different shafts, different types of screws are there. So depending upon what type of screw you need to either tight it or loose it, what do? This shaft, the handle remains the same, but this shaft changes. Depending upon what? Depending upon what kind of screw you are going to tight or you are going to loosen up. You have one handle and so many shafts. So by a differential combination of the handle, which is common, this is core enzyme is common, and these are the different shafts. What you can do? You can unscrew, you can initiate transcription from different sets of initiate transcription for different sets of genes. Okay, I hope you understand taking this particular analogy, this particular example. Now the next thing that comes is, some promoters are termed as strong promoters. So what is meant by strong promoters? Strong promoters, frequency of binding of RNA polymerase and initiation of transcription from this promoter is very high. Promoters which support very frequent transcription, initiation of transcription events, those promoters are called as strong promoters. Typically every 2 seconds, the transcription may be initiated from these promoters, right? Every 2 seconds, in bacteria, every 2 seconds, the transcription can be initiated from these promoters, and they are called as strong promoters. So what is meant by strong promoters? Strong promoters are those promoters which have standard consensus sequences. Standard consensus sequences means, we have just understood. You have TA, TA, 88 minus 10, TT, GA, CA minus 35. So these, when there is not even a single nucleotide deviation from the standard sequence, those promoters are called as strong promoters. Okay, and when you have, deviation, substitution in these sequences, the promoter becomes weak, weaker, and weakest. More the substitutions, weakest will be the promoter. For example, I have shown it over here. So there is only one nucleotide has been changed in both the sequences. Okay, the one which has been shown in red, it is the nucleotide which is changed. It doesn't match with the standard. So there is a deviation of one nucleotide in the standard sequence. So this promoter becomes weak. What is meant by weak? The frequency of binding of RNA polymerase and initiation of transcription becomes less. Such promoters are called as weak promoters. If you have multiple substitutions, for example, shown over here, there are 2 nucleotides which are different. Okay, so this promoter will be the weaker promoter. If you still have substitution, then that promoter will be still weaker. So like that. So when there is no substitution, such a promoter is called a strong promoter. And when you have substitution, single substitution, that is weak promoter. You have multiple substitution, you have weaker promoter, weakest promoter, like that. And what is the difference between the strong promoter and the weak promoter? Strong promoter, they afford, they sponsor, they support initiation of transcription almost every 2 seconds. Whereas when a promoter is weak, progressively weaker, multiple substitutions are there, that promoter will find it difficult to be identified by RNA polymerase, and initiation of transcription from such promoters is going to be difficult. It is going to take time, frequency is less, it may take even 1 hour. And many times when there are too many substitutions, in such cases, the promoter may not actually be identified by the RNA polymerase also. Okay, so this is very important. Time and again, we will be using this particular concept, what is meant by strong promoter and what is meant by weak promoter. So I think we have another 3-4 minutes. We'll go for eukaryotic polymerases. Eukaryotic RNA polymerases, as I told you, unless I specify, we will be discussing prokaryotic. But now we have some time, we'll discuss about eukaryotic RNA polymerases also. So in eukaryotes, you have more than one RNA polymerase. You have more than one RNA polymerase. For example, you have RNA pol 1. You see the location, it is present in nucleolus. And the job is, what type of RNA it synthesizes? It synthesizes 18S, 5.8S, and 28S ribosomal RNA. And one characteristic feature is, what is its response to alpha-amanitin? Alpha-amanitin is a poisonous compound which is present in a kind of mushroom. So that alpha amanitin, its response, RNA polymerase 1, it is insensitive. It is not affected. Its activity is not affected by alpha amanitin. We have another type of RNA polymerase 2. It is present in nucleoplasm. So nucleolus is, there is an organelle within the nucleus that is called as nucleolus. This is nucleolus, right? Nucleoplasm is this space. This is nucleoplasm. So RNA pol2 is present here. The location is nucleoplasm. And C, it is responsible for synthesis of messenger RNA. Messenger RNA precursors will be synthesized by RNA polymerase 2, and it is highly sensitive to that poisonous compound present in one type of mushroom, Amanita phalloides. Amanita phalloide is the name of the mushroom. It is also called as death cup. And this alpha amanitin, it is a compound which is present in that poisonous mushroom. So this RNA pol2 is sensitive to it. You have another type of RNA polymerase 3. It is also present in nucleoplasm. Now you know what is nucleoplasm. This is nucleoplasm. And is responsible for the synthesis of tRNA and 5S ribosomal RNA. And it is moderately sensitive. Moderately sensitive means it gets affected at higher concentration of alpha amanitin. Whereas RNA pol2 gets affected by even a very small amount of alpha amanitin. This will require relatively higher concentration of alpha amanitin. And RNA pol2 is analogous to prokaryotic RNA polymerase. RNA pol2 of eukaryotes, this RNA pol2 of eukaryote, it is similar to RNA polymerase which is present in bacteria in terms of functions. Now, in eukaryotes, similar to prokaryotes, promoters are there. But since eukaryotes are a lot more complex, their number of genes are also very high. So the promoters are also going to be more complex. Typically, these promoters are also located on the 5' end. 5' end is also called as upstream end from the start site. Means I told you this is the start site. So this is called as upstream. This is minus, this is plus. This is start site. Okay, so this is also called as upstream, this is called as downstream. Okay, so these promoters, like in prokaryotes, they are also located upstream. They also have consensus sequences. They again are small, short stretches of DNA, and they are characterized by presence of consensus sequences. You know, but the location and the number, it varies. Typically, you have a consensus sequence at -25. This is the consensus sequence at -25. Please note it down. This is called a starter box. In prokaryotes, we had a consensus sequence centered at -10. Here there is one consensus sequence which is located at -25. In addition, they have sequences present between -40 and -10, -110. You know, the number and location of these two types of consensus sequences. I'm repeating once again, the number and location of these sequences other than -25 sequence, it vary from promoter to promoter. So that is how a huge diversity in the promoter structure is achieved. This -25 sequence remains common in all promoters, eukaryotic promoters. But -40 and -110, you will have these two types of consensus sequences. A GC box sequence is this. It is called as GC box, and a CAD box. The sequence is this. You have to remember these sequences. Their number, you know, some promoters may have 2 GC boxes and 1 CAD box. Other promoters may have 2 CAD boxes and 1 GC box. The third type of promoters may have all 3 CAD boxes. The fourth type of promoters may have all GC boxes. In some cases, they may be located at -40. In some cases, they may be located at -50. So that is how you will generate the kind of diversity one would require to identify, to regulate the transcription of so many genes which are present in eukaryotes. Eukaryotic promoters, the diversity is generated by the presence of different types of consensus sequences, their location also. Minus 25 consensus sequence, I'm repeating, remains same, constant. But sequences present between minus 40 and minus 110 called as GC box and CAD box, those sequences, their number and their location will vary. Now in eukaryotes, transcription cannot be initiated by RNA polymerase alone. Just a minute. So in eukaryotes, RNA polymerase by itself cannot initiate transcription. Obviously, because eukaryotic system is far more complex, right? So a different mechanism is there in eukaryotes. As I mentioned here, RNA polymerase cannot initiate transcription on its own. Okay, rather it is aided, it is supported by a set of what are called as transcription factors. TF stand for transcription factor. TF stand for transcription factor. Okay, so it is supported by a set of factors. Collectively, they are called as transcription factor. In particular, transcription factor TF2. TF stand for transcription factor and 2 stand for RNA pol 2. This plays a very vital role as far as initiating transcription in eukaryote is concerned. So there is a sequence of events. It is mentioned over here. It begins with the binding of TF2D. D is a component of transcription factor 2. This TF2D, it comes and binds at the minus 25 consensus sequence, also called as Tata box. So the whole event, the ball is set rolling by the binding of this TF2D. D is a component of transcription factor 2. It comes and sits over Tata box. And how can it come and bind over here specifically? So a part of TF2D, it has got a complementary sequence to that of the Tata box sequence. So that is how nucleotide recognition becomes easy. Then once TF2D is bound, it is followed by the binding of TF2A. A comes and bind. A comes and bind. Then transcription factor 2B, another component of transcription factor 2 is B. It comes and binds, shown over here. So you have D followed by A followed by B, and then only this, the one which has been shown in yellow, this is RNA polymerase. So this RNA polymerase will come and bind, right? So this is how in particular sequence the assembly is made at the promoter. And then, as I said earlier, Tata box, this 2F2D, it has got a Tata box binding protein. A component of 2F2D is called as Tata box binding protein, TBP. It is a component of TF2D. It has got a sequence which is complementary to the sequence present in Tata box, and that is how very specifically it can come and sit over the Tata box. Please understand, in biology, nucleic acid recognition is identification is simple. Protein recognition is simple. Carbohydrate recognition is simple. Interaction becomes difficult when you talk of two different biomolecules. Nucleic acid carbohydrate interaction is going to be difficult. Nucleic acid protein interaction is going to be difficult. So like that. Now, because of diversity in upstream sequences, diversity in upstream sequences means what? So we have just learned that minus 25 is common in all the eukaryotic promoters, but further upstream, the sequences, the GC box and the CAD box, their number and their location, though they are located between minus 40 and minus 110, but their location may not be same in all the promoters. In some promoters, they may be at minus 50. In some others, they may be at minus 60, minus 100, like that. And their number also varies. So because of that, a lot of diversity is generated in the eukaryotic promoters. And because of huge diversity in eukaryotic promoters, this is called as basal transcription apparatus. It is followed by the binding of TF2E, and once TF2E is bound, this is what is called as basal transcription apparatus. So this is basal. But in eukaryotes, the RNA polymerase may require additional factors, additional factors may be required for initiation of transcription. In all eukaryotic promoters, this basal transcription apparatus will be common. The sequence will be common: D followed by A, followed by B, followed by RNA polymerase, and followed by E. And once in this particular sequence, they assemble on the promoter, this is called as basal transcription apparatus. But since you have diversity in the upstream sequences, their location and their number, what is going to happen? It may so happen that RNA polymerase may require additional transcription factors, then only initiation of transcription can take place from those promoters. So this is all about the first part of the transcription. We'll continue